Okay, so imagine this. You're standing on a sand dune, it's hot, it's dry, and way out on the horizon you see a herd of camels. It's a classic desert scene.
Totally. Straight out of Lawrence of Arabia.
Exactly, but then you just turn your head, you don't move, you don't get on a plane, and you're looking up at a mountain range and there's a herd of reindeer grazing near a snow line.
That sounds impossible. Like a glitch in a video game map where the developers just pasted the Arctic biome right on top of the desert one.
It really does. But the place is real. And looking at the materials we're diving into today, these travelogues from the Russian Geographical Society, archaeological reports, this is the Republic of Tuva. And honestly, glitch might be the perfect word for it.
It's a geographical paradox for sure.
It is. It feels less like a normal region on a map and more like, I don't know, a time capsule.
Well, it sort of exists in its own separate timeline. We're talking about a place that is technically the geographical center of all of Asia.
Right in the middle.
And yet it's one of the most isolated places on the entire continent.
And we're not just talking about a quirky bit of geography. We're going to get into how that isolation became a kind of shield. It preserved a version of history that completely rewrites what we thought we knew about some major ancient civilizations.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about the Scythians, a lost Atlantis at the bottom of a reservoir, and a World War II story that, well, it sounds made up.
It really does. Until you see the diplomatic cables, you think, no way.
It's a heavy stack of sources today. We're going to try and unpack how a place can be both a lost world and the cradle of a civilization at the exact same time.
Say, let's get our bearings first. Where are we exactly?
We are in southern Siberia. It's a Russian republic, but it's wedged right up against the border of Mongolia.
Okay, but before we go any further, we have to talk about the name, because I've seen it spelled two ways. Is it Tuva with a U or Tuva with a Y?
And the simple answer is yes.
Ah, one of those.
It's a context thing. Both are correct. If you're looking at like the Constitution or a government document or the official coat of arms, it's Tuva with a Y.
So that's the official formal name.
Right. But if you're just talking to someone, in daily life, people say Tuva. It's the spoken version versus the bureaucratic one.
Got it. So Tuva for the tax forms, Tuva for a cup of tea. Now, you said it was isolated. What does that actually mean?
It means structurally isolated. I mean, think about this. There is no railway at all.
None in a territory that big.
Not a single track.
Oh.
And there are only two roads into the entire republic. One main federal highway that has to snake its way through the Sayan Mountains, and one smaller secondary road. That's it.
Wow.
There's an airport in the capital, Kaisel, but once you land, the infrastructure, it just drops off a cliff. The sources all describe travel there as basically an off-road expedition. You're not hopping on a bus.
You're in some rugged four-wheel drive van crossing riverbeds.
Exactly. A UAZ, most likely. The mountains, which cover about 4/5 of the whole territory, they basically build a wall around the republic. And that wall effect is what creates that climate paradox you started with.
The camel and reindeer situation.
It's a vertical gradient. Down in the basins, you have actual sandy deserts with dunes. You go up a little in elevation, you hit dry steppes. A little higher, you're in the dense taiga forest. And at the very top, you've got glacial tundra.
So it's like a greatest hits of Earth's ecosystems all crammed into one place.
Pretty much. And that density of ecology seems to mirror the density of its history. Because for a place that is so hard to get to, there is a staggering amount of stuff buried under the ground.
Which brings us to the Valley of Kings.
This is where the story gets really, really important. For a long time, this Valley of Kings in Tuva was known for its kurgans, these ancient burial mounds you see all over the steppe.
Just bumps on the landscape.
Right. But then, the excavation of one mound, known as Arzon II, it changed everything.
That's the gold, right?
Oh, this is the gold. They found 11,000 objects, mostly gold. But what's so stunning isn't just the amount of it, it's the craftsmanship. The source describes a ruler's cape, just covered in tiny gold beads.
How many are we talking?
2,500 microscopic beads
Mm-hmm.
on the pants and cape alone. And this is all done in the famous animal style, these incredible depictions of deer, panthers, mythical creatures.
And this is what I want to focus on. Because gold pants are cool, but that kind of craftsmanship, that's the real story, isn't it? You don't make thousands of microscopic beads if you're just some barbarian tribe passing through. This implies a settled, highly sophisticated workshop.
You're exactly right. And that just flies in the face of the traditional narrative we've all been taught. Remember the ancient Greek historian Herodotus?
Sure.
He told us that the Scythians, this huge nomadic civilization, they came from the west, from the Black Sea area, maybe Iran, and they pushed their way east.
Right, the standard model of civilizations spreading from west to east.
But the carbon dating from Arzon II, it puts those burials in the 8th or 7th century BC. That is centuries older than the Scythian stuff found around the Black Sea.
So the whole timeline is backwards.
The arrow was pointing the wrong way. Tuva wasn't the edge of the Scythian world, it was the source.
It was the cradle.
It was the cradle. The art, the technology, it all seems to have started right here in the center of Asia and then migrated west. It forces us to see Central Asia not as some highway for nomads, but as a genuine hub of innovation.
That's a huge shift. And it seems like the land is still giving up its secrets. I was really fascinated by this place called Alady. You called it a Siberian Atlantis.
It's a pretty good analogy. Alady is an archaeological site, but it's at the bottom of the Yenisei Reservoir. So most of the year, it's completely underwater.
So you can't just go dig.
Nope. The archaeologists have this tiny, incredibly high-pressure window. Sometimes it's just a few weeks a year when the water level drops or the dam drains it. They have to literally race out onto the mudflats and excavate as much as they can before the water comes rushing back in.
Wow, that adds this whole layer of urgency to finding this history. It's there, but it's just out of reach.
And that theme of being hidden in plain sight seems to carry over into the modern culture too, especially when you look at the spiritual life in Tuva.
It's not quite what it seems on the surface, is it?
Not at all. It's a textbook case of religious syncretism, but it works so seamlessly there. Officially, on paper, Buddhism is the main religion.
Okay.
But if you just scratch the surface, you find that shamanism is really the cultural operating system.
So it's not like you have to choose one or the other.
Not in the slightest.
Ah.
The sources say a local might go see a Buddhist lama for life advice, about a marriage or business deal. But if they get sick, they go to a shamanic clinic. And yes, there are actual shamanic clinics for healing. The home of the supreme shaman of all of Russia is in Tuva.
It just paints this picture of a place that's always been culturally dense, even if it's geographically sparse. And you see that in how they treat the landscape itself. It's not empty, it's full of sacred markers.
They're everywhere. You'll see the white Buddhist stupas along the roadsides, but then you have these other sites, like the footprint of Buddha.
What's that story?
Well, the 14th Dalai Lama was flying over Tuva back in 1992. He saw this strange light on the ground, and he told the locals. They went to investigate, and they found a rock formation that looks like a giant footprint. And just like that, boom, it's a new sacred site.
But then you have something much, much older. These stone idols, the Kizikos.
Yeah, these are incredible. They aren't Buddhist. They're these rugged, ancient stone statues of warriors, just standing out there in the middle of the steppe, holding a little cup or a bowl.
And they've been there forever.
Since the first millennium.
Yeah.
But here's the amazing part. They aren't in a museum. They're not behind a fence. They're just out there.
Yeah.
And they've survived because the local people treat them as living spirits.
This is where that milk ritual comes from, right?
Exactly. You'll see the stones are often stained white. That's because locals will come and sprinkle milk or tea on them as an offering to the spirit inside. They're literally feeding the statue. And that reverence, that tradition, is what protected them for centuries, better than any security guard.
That brings us back to that whole paradox idea. The people have adapted to the land, and the land itself is just as full of contrasts as the climate.
The water's a perfect example. You can drive to a place called Duskol. It's a salt lake with a salinity that's basically the same as the Dead Sea,
So you just float.
like a cork. It's
Yeah.
harsh, saline, medicinal. But then not far away, you're at Lake Azaz, which is famous for blooming water lilies and lotuses, or Upsunur, which is this huge, pristine UNESCO biosphere reserve on the Mongolian border.
It's like they have every type of water feature imaginable.
And yet, the most important water feature is probably the confluence in the capital, Kaisel. It's where the two rivers, the big and small Yenisei, merge to become the one great Yenisei River that flows all the way to the Arctic Ocean.
And that's where they put the monument, the center of Asia.
Yep, a big obelisk with 3 lions holding up a globe. Depending on how you calculate the continent's borders, this is the geometric center of Asia. You are, at the same time, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of everything.
And right next to it, just to hammer home that spiritual blend, there's a giant Buddhist prayer wheel.
And not just any prayer wheel. The source says it contains 115 million mantras rolled up inside.
115 million. That's some serious spiritual efficiency.
Maximum efficiency per rotation.
So, okay, we have the wild geography, the ancient history, rewriting the books, the spiritual life. But there's this one chapter of modern Tuvan history that I think is the most surprising. It just feels so out of scale, the World War II story.
This is such a great historical footnote. It's this unique diplomatic anomaly. So you have to remember the timeline. This is 1941. At that point, Tuva was not part of the Soviet Union.
Right, they were their own independent republic. I mean, a Russian protectorate, but technically sovereign.
Exactly. So when Nazi Germany invaded the USSR on June 22nd, 1941, Tuva didn't really have to do anything. They could have just stayed neutral.
But they didn't?
They did the opposite. They were the very first nation in the world to declare war on Germany in support of the Soviets.
Before the UK.
The story goes, it was about 12 hours before the United Kingdom did.
And there's that famous anecdote, it might be a legend, but I love it, that when Hitler was told Tuva had declared war, he had to ask his generals to find it on a map.
He couldn't find his new enemy.
Mhm.
But, Tuva's contribution was no joke. This is what I mean about scale. The population of Tuva at the time was about 80,000 people.
That's tiny. That's the size of a small city.
And yet, they went all in, completely. They gave their entire national gold reserve to the Red Army.
It's their entire reserve.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Just emptied the treasury. They sent huge herds of livestock, wool, meat. Tuvan cavalry volunteers actually fought and died on the front lines. It was a staggering level of commitment.
And it just reinforces this idea that Tuva, even though it's isolated, has never really been disconnected. It was shaping ancient history, and then it was stepping onto the world stage in the 1940s.
That's the thing. Isolation in Tuva doesn't mean irrelevance. It just means they operate on their own terms.
So bringing it to today, what's the feeling on the ground? Because the sources do mention some challenges. You see warnings about safety if you look it up online.
And we should be honest about that. The sources are pretty clear that alcohol is a major social issue there. The laws are incredibly strict. You can only buy alcohol between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon.
That is a very tight window.
It is, and it reflects a real problem. But the travelogues are also insistent that the danger is often exaggerated by outsiders. The overwhelming experience they describe is one of hospitality. It's not a war zone, it's a place with struggles, but also immense pride.
And you can literally hear that pride. We can't finish this without mentioning the sound of Tuva. Kume, throat singing.
The sonic signature of the entire region.
I was listening to some clips while getting ready for this, and it's just It's visceral. When you stand on that vast, empty steppe, the wind makes these weird, multi-tonal sounds. Kui doesn't just feel like music, it feels like a sonic map of the landscape.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Rock. Đây bộ đông ngon lòng mình lên đời bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây tiếng gần đừng ở trên đây bộ đông ngon lòng mình lên đời bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây tiếng gần đừng ở trên đây bộ đông ngon lòng mình lên đời bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây tiếng gần đừng ở trên đây bộ đông ngon lòng mình lên đời bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây đây bộ đông gần nắng mình lên đây bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây tiếng gần nắng ở trên đây bộ đông gần nắng mình lên đây bộ hạt tega mây dư bất cứ đời yêu đâu rồi đây